Hey friend, welcome back to the channel, and today you are going to learn about how you can problem solving and negotiate like a pro. We are so delighted that we have Khai Era together with us today. Khai Era is a principal engineer at Intel Malaysia, and he's going to share with us this profound book from Steven Covey. The third element. Let's sit down, relax, and learn about the concept of we-win and how you can adopt that in the negotiation with people. Let's dive in now.
And I think this book is actually quite interesting in the sense that it's not really about a way, but it's more about a way of life. Let me go into the next level details. Okay. Today, we will start with the introduction, and then after that, we will go to the steps and finally about the summary. As what Billy has mentioned, most of us know Stephen Covey is because the 7 habits of the highly effective people. So if we look at the long list over that, first, what is he talking about? He's talking about being proactive. Being proactive actually is not is not strange to the Far Eastern culture, because even in the Confucian culture, we are talking about we need to take charge of our own destiny. So you can see that it's actually a way of life that is part of our rich history culture. And then second habit. Second habit, begin with end in mind, meaning that whatever that you want to do, you need to think about your final outcome. Instead of just the process, you also need to define your process so that you are able to get to your final outcome. And then third is about put first things first. To make it simple, it's about prioritization. What is important to you versus just going through the laundry list, just going through the urgent list, but it may not be important. And then as what Billy mentioned, think win-win. Think win-win basically means that we want to get the most out of it, and we also want the other party to get most out of it. It is seek first to understand, meaning that we want to try to understand the other party instead of just trying to being understood. A lot of us have this dilemma is that why you do not understand us and follow our way. But actually, if we want to further improve the relationship, we can think about how can we understand the other party and tune our way so that we can help the other party at the same time they can also help us. The sixth is about synergy. Actually, we will talk a lot about synergy in our next few pages. And finally, it's about sharpen the sword. Basically, sharpen the sword means that we need to have good technical strength, good skill set, so that we are able to execute the things smoothly. Just like if you are a cook, besides you need to have good cooking ingredients, you also need to have good cook skill. So it's all about making yourself better and faster in executing one thing. And if you think about all these 7 habits, how this translates to the third alternative. The third alternative is actually a book by Stephen Covey at the later stage of his life, which he talks about how he's trying to combine all these techniques together into a general or into a master skill so that we can execute to get the betterment out from our approach and engagement with others. Take this apple as an example. If you have only one apple and then you have 2 people, how do we want to distribute the apple? Are we saying that we want to cut it into half so that I eat half piece and you eat half piece? But that is called compromise, meaning that we are actually giving up some of our interest in order to get the approval from the other side. Is there a way or is there a better alternative that we can do so that both of us can have one apple, even though currently there's only one apple? Some of the more creative people will think about, can I use this apple to make an apple pie, sell it, and then use the money to buy 2 apples? If you are a long-term strategy thinker, you may think about, can I use this apple and plant in the soil, and then eventually it grows into an apple tree so that we can have more apples. So the third alternative basically is about the abundance mindset, how we can use our creativity and innovation so that we are not sacrificing our interest or we are not compromising on our existing interest. And in the end, both parties have this win-win situation. Okay. 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 Sorry. So that's why if we see in all the engagement, right, we always see that there is four types of scenarios. Either we are talking about we win, the other party win, or we win, the other party lose, or we lose, the other party win, or both of us lose together. I believe all of us try to win. And a lot of times we don't really care whether the other party is losing or not. We just want to win ourselves. But bear in mind, when the other party comes to negotiate and engage with us, they also want to win. And they also don't care about whether we are losing or not. That's why the third alternative is about how can we have a 1+1 better than 2, where both sides can have the winning situation, and we are not talking about just a compromise and we give up something. If we look at the nature, right? Actually, this is something that they are already practicing. Uh, Looking at the V formation of the geese, which is quite famous if you read some of the articles, they say that why the geese they are flying in a V shape instead of they fly by themselves. It's because after scientific research, they found out that actually this is aerodynamics efficiency. By flying through this way, actually they can save 36% of their energy to do other things. So delving deeper into this, you can see that it's not about my way, it's not about your way, but it's about our way. And through this our way, we can have a better outcome than we just work individual. We can combine our forces to gain a much greater outcome. That's the measure of 1+1 greater than 2. Why is it that a lot of times we find it difficult to work with the other party? It's because throughout our long history of mankind, actually we are already quite accustomed to the fight or flight situation. If you are familiar with the story of the water margin or almost our brothers, Sui Fu Zhan, there is this hero called Wu Song, which fight the tiger. So the story is about Wu Song was crossing through the mountain, and then the villagers warned him that, oh, there is a tiger inside. So you need to stay over here and do not cross the mountain. But then he thought that the villagers are trying to trick him to have an additional hotel stay at the village there. That's why he insisted to cross over the mountains. And eventually, he find there is a tiger really there. So during that time, he only has two choices. He either become a hero, fight the tiger, and win over it, which reality is he really did that and he became a hero. The other option is he quickly ran away, which is the flight situation, and save his life. During that time of danger, you do not have the luxury to sit down together with the tiger and negotiate with him. You are hungry, I'm also hungry. How can we work together to have a better scenario so that both of us are not hungry? Because you are in the risk of losing your life already. You only have the fight or flight situation. That's why even until now, it's embedded in our nature that when we are facing the other party in a business negotiation, we also fall into this fight or flight situation where we either give up or we give in or we try to win over the other side. But is that the best case to do? If you are thinking about the win-win situation, it will not be, because all the win-win situation is about you trying to seek to understand the other party, come up with better alternative. And even if we look at the history of mankind, we also eventually learn that collaboration can help to improve our outcome. Looking at the example of the wolf versus human, eventually the wolf, they hunt by themselves, human hunt by ourselves. But then there are some species of wolves that work together with humans to hunt together. And eventually this species of wolf becomes the dog family. And that's how now we have the dog as the pet. So humans are also learning to work together with our natural enemy so that we can have better outcome. But again, it's still our nature of fight and flighting. And when we are trying to have a negotiation with the other side, we need to bear in mind that whether are we falling into that trap or we are really in our rational mind. If we give an example about the fight-flight situation versus win-win situation, uh, the best example that I can think of is Mahatma Gandhi. And actually, this example is quoted in a very detailed manner in the book also. If we look at the history of Mahatma Gandhi, uh, everybody knows him as the father of independence of India. But there is one interesting part of his life, which is the part where he stayed at South Africa as a practicing lawyer there. And during that time, South Africa is still practicing the apartheid law, where they have superiority over certain ethnicity versus the other ethnicity. So unfortunately, Gandhi, even though he's a professional lawyer, but he faced some unfairness in his day-to-day life. One example being quoted is that he was taking a train, and even though he bought the train ticket, but he was forced to go down the train because he's not the superior ethnicity. That triggers him to think about what should he do to make the world a fairer place. And at South Africa, there he had a few choices, but the choice that he has chosen was the famous, the famous non violence, non-violence disobedience movement, meaning that they protest but it's non-violent. And actually, his way gained him quite some respect at South Africa, where even the mayor of the South Africa city there also uh, becomes, I wouldn't use the term friend, but he actually respected Gandhi a lot throughout the whole movement. And when he was back at India, there was one interesting or one cruel incident, which is the Amritsar massacre. Because during that time is the end of World War One, and during World War One, because England is busy fighting in the World War One, they actually give quite some autonomy to India. But at the end of World War One, the Indian citizens were thinking they will continue this kind of political autonomy. But unfortunately, the British administration government did not continue that. That's why there was quite some social unrest and protest. And in particular, at this Amritsar place, the British soldiers actually fired at the Indian population, causing more than hundreds of deaths and also thousands being injured. And that again triggered Gandhi to think about what should he do for the cause of the independence movement in India. And again, the path that he has chosen is not to fight the British, and he's also not choose the way of flight, which means that he just hide himself, just do his professional lawyer practice, but he choose again to follow the non-violence disobedience movement, which eventually triggers a lot of followers, which in the end comes to the final success of the independence of India at 1947. So you can see that a lot of times it's not about fighting or winning. A lot of times it's about how you can influence the other party to give you what you want. And it's not by the violent way. It's not by forcing it through. Okay. Steven Covey actually put down this interesting figure about, okay, if you want to do the third alternative thinking, first is we need to see ourselves. Second is we need to see the other side. Third is we need to seek the other side. Basically, it's seeking to understand. And finally, is we come out together with the third alternative as the win-win situation approach. Okay. What do we mean by I see myself? Uh, Actually, do we really know who we are? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Just give a simple example. I'm the father of two kids. Uh, One is a 12-year-old son, one is a 9-year-old daughter. And then I always think I'm a loving father. But when my kids' exam results is not that good, uh, actually I will get unhappy. And I will think about why am I getting unhappy? Is it because I really worried about the future of my son? Or is it that I'm worried about my own face? Because last time I had quite good exam results. So when things happen, we think we are rational, but are we really rational, or we are jumping to the emotional piece? It's something that we can ponder upon. And a lot of times we may think we are kind, but then if we talk with our kids may think otherwise about us. It gives us a different perspective. So seeing ourselves is all about being honest to ourselves about who we are. Why do we react like that during that time? It's not about right or wrong, good or evil. It's just about understanding ourselves so that we know our thinking pattern and we are not triggered by our emotional reaction and do the wrong thing in the first place because we are already governed by our emotions already. The next part is I see you. I see you means that does the other party really is like what we think they are. In Malaysia, we are from multicultural, multi-ethnicity. So at certain time, we may have stereotypes different towards different groups. So there is one good movie which is Into the White and it's based on the World War II real history. The movie is about during the World War II, there is a German aeroplane that crashed into the Norwegian mountain and they were trapped over there. It's the winter time. They find a wooden hut over there and they live there while waiting for rescue. Coincidentally, there was also a British plane crashed nearby, and the two British air flight crew also find their way until the wooden hut there. At first, there was this negotiation of should we let them in, should we not let them in, and eventually the British were being allowed into the wooden hut because the German think that the British has lost their fighting power, so they are considered prisoner of war to the Germans already. So that's why they go in and they distribute the rations and the supplies based on the principle of prison of war. There was quite some conflict between these two parties where the British soldiers try to steal the guns from the Germans and try to control the other side. And also the Germans try to steal back the guns from the British, try to control the other side. So they started their engagement in a very cautious manner because from their side, I'm British, you are Germans. We are different parties, and from the British perspective, all Germans are evil. And from the Germans' perspective, all British are also lousy. So that's why they goes into this stereotyping. It's only until one incident where they were trying to chop some of the woods from the wooden cabin because it's winter time. They need to do some fire burning to create a warmth for themselves. And then suddenly the roof collapsed. And both sides quickly try to hold the wooden structure together without thinking that, oh, whether you are German or I'm British, because during that time it's a matter of life and death. And we are all comrades together in the same wooden hut. That's the turning point of their engagement, when now they suddenly see that we can only win, we can only survive when we work together. When they have this mindset, then they start to understand the other party. And then they found out that it's nothing about stereotyping, but it's about human. They found out that one of the German soldiers actually is a very good artist. And he actually does not even want to become a soldier. He's kind of like he has a family business that he doesn't want to inherit, and he wants to run away from the family. And the end, he chooses to become a soldier. So gradually, both parties understand the other parties by names, by their characters. They think they are humans, not just armies, not just enemies. The story ended where the Norwegian army finally found them, and then the German armies were captured as prisoner of war, sent to Canada, while the two British armies continued to fight under the British army. And like 2 years later, one of the British army died, but the other British army continued to survive. And actually, this photo is taken around 1970, where where the German army received a call from the British army, and 30 years later, they finally meet up, finally as friends and not as enemies. So you can see that there are multiple instances when we are in different parties, whether we are talking about different religions or different school of thought, we're trying to stereotype. But if you are trying to understand, you are a human, I will try to understand you. It will open up different possibilities for both of us. Right. The third one is basically about I seek you out. I seek you out is kind of like continuation of I see you. Yes, now I know you are a human. I try to sell to you that, oh, let us try to have a win-win situation. But are you open to it, or are you resistant to it? Do you uh do you really able to accept that by working together we can gain better height? So that's the time when we want to look at the characters of the other side. Because if you look at the iceberg model, there are qualities of a human that we can see quite easily, like their language, their the ways that they dress themselves, the way that they walk, or the people that they mix around, and their ethnicity, and then also their appearance. These are all very obvious. But there are also the next layer of of mind patterns that is difficult to understand, like my belief, my core values, uh, like how do I react to certain situations. All these kind of things, you need to understand the other party more. Then only you are able to convince that we are able to work together. And sometimes the easiest way is actually to listen to the other party and not to criticize. Uh, in the book, it quotes an example about a father and a daughter. The father actually is a Steven Covey 7 Habits practitioner also. And then he has a daughter that likes to mix around with drug addicts. And the father is a bit cautious that his daughter will eventually be part of the gang also. And one day, he tried to sit with his daughter, asking, uh, what do you think about your friends? The first reaction of his daughter is that, uh, you don't like me to mix with them because you will lose face. The father reaction is that, okay, uh, you feel bad about that because you think that I care my face more about you. So tell me more about it. So you take one step back, right? The daughter is already a teenage daughter. When she made that statement, she is expecting a fight. But when the father react in that way, which is I try to seek you out, I try to understand you, basically it makes the daughter step back a bit already. It's not a normal reaction that she is expecting to get. And then she continued the conversation like, oh, actually, I like to mix with them because you are seldom at home. You don't care about us. If a father is very ego, the typical reaction is that I work so long hours, I contribute so much for the house. You tell me I don't care about you. That does not make sense. And then he can get angry, slam the door, walk away. But will that help in the situation? Bear in mind, when we say seeking someone out, it's not about fairness. You are not saying about, oh, you misjudge me, so you misjudge me, you make me feel bad. So I will act accordingly based on your judgment and make you feel bad also. It's about how you are able to overcome that emotion and take the other party opinion as an opinion and work together with the other party to extend that opinion to something more useful to both sides. That's how the father continued to say, oh, I'm sorry that I made you feel that. Can you elaborate more about why that makes you want to mix with this bunch of friends? And then the daughter continues to say that, oh, actually, I don't really have many friends. I mix with that is because they have time for me. I'm also feel frightened when they went into the drug addiction because their their behavior when they were high actually scares me. So you can see that a lot of times the other parties that we are trying to seek out are not stupid. They know a lot of the principles, they know what is happening, they know the risk also. But they choose to do that is because either they don't think they have a better choice or they just feel like they don't have the motivation to change. But when you have the courage and you have the rationale and you also have the emotional strength and stability to assure the other party that I'm here for you, I'm supporting you, and you can tell me what you think, and I can accept it. I may not agree to it, but I can accept it and we can work out together for something better. That is really something fabulous. And according to the end of the story, is that eventually the daughter uh, finds better groups of friends after consulting with the father, not because she's not aware of the consequences originally, but it's more towards like finally she are able to get the empathy and acceptance from the father that makes her have the courage to make the change by herself. I like this quote from Al Capone that told the news reporter during that time. So Al Capone is actually a famous mobster. If you watch the movie Untouchable, it's basically the story about how the police fight against this famous American gang gang leader. And even for a person that is proclaimed as evil by the whole American society, from his perspective, he still thinks that he's just making money because that's what the public needs it. And if he's in crime, actually, all the people in Chicago is also guilty. So you can see that everybody has their own perception, and if we are able to understand, at least we can create something different. Mhm. And finally comes to the point of I synergize with you. So uh, what does synergy mean to us? For some of us, actually, synergy is a professional word to tell us to compromise. Because if you go to some other business, you need to say, oh, I want to synergy with you. Maybe the first reaction that you can get is people will start to speculate, oh, are you trying to make use free resource out of us? You don't give us headcount, you try to ask us do something. So that is a typical reaction. But if you really take a look at the deeper meaning of synergy, it's about how we are able to share common goals and then use our creativity and innovation to come up with solutions so that it meets the interest of both parties. Mm, this is an example from the S.com and the Confinity. So basically, during that time, right, S.com is a company established by Elon Musk doing digital banking. But actually, Confinity is an earlier company that is already active in the arena. And at the beginning uh, of that digital banking, you don't have much solutions, and both solutions are trying to compete with each other. But eventually, they find that it's better if they combine force together. That's how they combine their two companies, and eventually PayPal was created. And the success of the digital transaction eventually made PayPal a great success in the business arena. And that's a typical successful example of how we can synergy to have a better results for both sides. There are a few steps to go towards synergy. The first step is we need to ask the important question of, do you want to gain the betterment from our engagement? And then the step two is we want to define the criteria of success. Step three is create the third alternative. And finally, step four is about arriving at synergy. So let me go through the steps one by one. The third alternative question is actually the key to open up the whole conversation. Are you willing to go for a solution that is better than any of us have come up with yet? The book talks in length about uh, why uh, why the legal affair or the you suing me versus suing the other side may not be a best solution, and it gives a good example that two businessmen originally they were good business partners, but they have some conflict of interest in their business partnership, and in the end they went to court. And during that time, one of the mediator give them quite something fun to work on. It says that, okay, uh, Mr. A lawyer, can you represent Mr. B instead and tell what Mr. B is thinking about and not your own client? And then the same goes for the other side. The Mr. B lawyer tries to represent Mr. A and then mention about what Mr. A is thinking about. It's only after 3 rounds of uh, explanation, then only finally Mr. A lawyer understand properly what Mr. B really wants. And same case, vice versa. And at the end of that practice, right, actually Mr. M and Mr. B does not even need the lawyer already. They already understand, oh, this is really what is in the other party's mind, and that get the emotional engagement. And it's not about just the whole business or the legal affair. It's about what they have believed in all this while when they start their business partnership, and they are able to settle the whole dispute in a more efficient manner. That's why step B. eh, Okay, okay. That's why the second step is we need to define the criteria of success. And when we define the criteria of success, basically we list down the characteristic. Okay, okay. We list down the characteristics of all the successful engagement that we have in our mind, and do not miss that out. So again, as we mentioned earlier, we are not talking about compromising. We are talking about whatever items A, B, C that you have, you list down it fully so that both sides are able to have this win-win situation. And the example given is that one day you have an angry employee that looks for the manager. asking for a pay rise. What should be the typical reaction of the manager? He can either say, "Oh, I give you pay rise," which is the win situation for the employee, but lose for him. Or he can say, "I will not give you the pay rise," which is the win situation for the manager, but lose for the employee. The third alternative that the manager has taken is that let's sit down and talk together. What do you really want? I understand that there is an ongoing economic pressure, and I would like to understand how I can better help you. And according to psychology, once you are able to let the other party say yes for a few times, actually it lowers down your emotional tension and also your psychological defense. So the way that the manager asks the question are all psychological questions that for sure the employee will say yes already. And along that way, eventually the manager is able to understand that the employee has a greater passion for his career advancement and is willing to take on greater responsibilities, which is critical for the success of the business. And throughout that, of course, he should be given a higher pay. And also the employee understand that the company is looking for talented individuals and passionate individuals that want to do more, and you give them opportunity to move up the career ladder. So these are all talking about conversations and making sure that success criteria are being met by both sides. And if we go to the third stage of create the third alternative, basically, uh, in a simple term for the business world, is about brainstorming. So you can turn your thinking upside down. You can mention whatever that you want, but most importantly is that you do not judge. Sometimes we find that our brainstorming session may not be as successful as what we want because we give negative comments or judgments too early. And that one is actually not helpful to the situation. Let our thinking run wild, and then only eventually we decide on what is the better solutions for the team. Under the creating the third alternative, Steven Covey talked about two things. One is prototype and one is counter prototype. Prototype is quite familiar to us because most of us are from engineering backgrounds. So prototype basically means that we just create a model, whether we start with a simple model through sketching, and after that we go to the 3D model and we do the simulation, and also we really build the actual hardware prototyping or the hardware model. And the benefit of this is that you have the feel of what the model looks like, what your solution looks like. And then if let's say there is a flaw in your model, basically you can feel fast and also you learn fast. And it will be good for the management to make decisions. The other interesting thing that is mentioned is about counter type. Counter type basically means a model that overturns your expectations. Because from the book, what they mention is the most creative solutions is actually you overturn the assumption that you have on your head, and then only you can see new ways to solve problem. Mhm. And the example given is American Motors. During the 1950s, George Rooney took over the CEO of American Motors. And that time is a time where all the American car makers try to make their engines bigger and bigger, more and more powerful. And because they think that the end users value the size of the car to become bigger, which means you can carry more people around, you can run faster. And George Rumi brings the other perspective is that a lot of families, they just want to move from one place to the other. And he introduced the concept of compact car, which eventually is this Rooney, this model being shown over here. Mm. And it actually was a great hit during that time. It was a bestseller in around the 1950 and 1960. And until the 1970 timeframe, most of the American car size is already following this model already. So it actually changed the perspective of how cars are being made, and it starts the so-called the trend of compact car. And the final stage is about arriving at synergy. So when we arrive at synergy, right, we will know if it is a synergy if, let's say, we can see these different criteria, meaning that if, let's say, the differences are still being accommodated, it's not being streamlined into one interest only, and is able to accommodate different party interests, is the outcome of the full teamwork instead of just an individual decision. And along the way, you find that whatever that you have provided actually are being received open-mindedly instead of just being shut off. And finally, you see that you are actually working together to get better and to become more cost efficient. Instead of you are trying to give up because I don't want to argue with you anymore, I just leave, or give it, or I just accept whatever that you have. So even though we are different, but it's under the spirit of inclusion where everybody gets what they want. There is one particular characteristic that is mentioned in the book about um, hubris. Basically, it's a term about our own ego and our pride. Sometimes when people come up with new ideas, we may have our own pride, which leads us to say that, oh, now it cannot work because we have think about it before. It's not invented here, and that's why it will not work. And one good example given is actually Thomas Edison, which from the Lego company. The story talks about during the milestone time, Thomas found out that actually like half the milestone customers are adults, which is out of their expectation because they were thinking they're selling Lego for kids. And then they do this user experience survey. They ask these adults that has purchased their milestone kits to MIT to understand how they use it. And the results are not as what they want, because they found out all these so-called adult users actually will hack their system and do something which is different from what they want them to be. And as the Lego company employee, he actually has a choice to protect their own so-called IP and don't let people mess around with their Lego kits. But Thomas used a different approach. He actually opened up this league called Adult Fan of Lego, AFOL. And throughout this community engagement, he is able to understand why the users hack it and how they hack it, and take these elements that are commercially advantageous and incorporate it into their Lego business kit, and that helps to let the Lego kit to become better and better. So this is how you can combine forces, and it's kind of like the open community mindset that we have now. Sometimes we will also think about, is the third alternative only applicable in a place where you have resource abundance? The book also talk about this good example in developing world. Harish is an engineer from Bangalore. And as we know, India actually have quite some electricity supply issue in some of their rural areas. And Harish' vision is, how can he create and generate electricity at almost zero cost? And one of the alternative solutions which he eventually used is solar panel, because he understands that from the Indian community over there, they don't need high power electricity supply. They just need around 40 watt just to maybe turn on their light for their kids to do homework at night, uh, run their electric sewing machine so that they can continue to do their work at night, and maybe just charge their electrical motor because they have this three-wheel taxi, so it can give them a better and longer duration for the taxi driver the next day. So he created this company called Xiaogo, and basically they sell solar panels to this underprivileged community, and they also help them to get financing to purchase these solar panels. And it's actually helped to improve the lives of multiple households in the southern India. So that's why it's about the abundance mindset. It's not about how abundant your environment is. Okay. So as a summary, third alternative is actually a mindset. It's an extension of the 7 habits of highly effective people. And throughout the process of seeing ourselves, seeing the other, seeking out the other, eventually we can have the synergy with the other side to get the betterment of our life together. And also, synergy is also a choice. Because when we ask the most important question of, do we want to get a solution that is better for both of us? And then we define the success criteria, we create the third alternative. Finally, we arrive at synergy is our choice. In our lifetime, a lot of times we cannot choose what will happen to us, but then we can always choose how to react to things that has happened to us. And hopefully throughout this sharing, you can have a better understanding of the essence of Stephen Covey's book about this third alternative. Feel free to read the book, and hopefully you can learn from it and also get a better improvement in your life. Thank you.
Jimin have this question. I just read it for you.
Yeah.
If one of your partners thinking mindset stuck as my way, how to collaborate with this kind of person and how to be a win-win situation?
Okay. So it comes to, first of all, thanks for the question, Jimmy. Yes. Agree with what you say that everybody comes with their own agenda in mind. And then, as mentioned earlier in the sharing, right, the essential part is actually on I seek you out, meaning that I try to understand your limitation and versus my interest. Uh, Maybe I don't have a direct answer for you, but I can quote an example from the book, which I think would be quite interesting from that side. So the story is about there was one parent who is a music lover, and one day her daughter came back to home saying that, oh, now the school will not teach music already. The mother felt very unhappy. And the next day, the mother went over to the school to ask the teacher, why is the school not teaching music now? Surprisingly, uh, he she found out that the teacher was also not happy with the decision, but the teacher has to push that decision because now they don't have enough time to finish their official formal subjects already. So that's the time when the mother told the teacher, can we have an alternative that we can teach music while still teaching the basic subjects? And the teacher said, yes, maybe there is a way. Together, the mother and the teacher actually crafted out songs teaching about English, teaching about history, and teaching about mathematics so that the students can sing it while they were learning the languages, the history, and also the mathematics. So at the end, both sides achieve the win-win situation. The mother is able to let the daughter continue to learn music, and the teacher is also able to meet her OKR, which is to finish all the subjects that is given assigned to her. So when we have a stubborn partner, in the lack of a better word, stubborn partner, sometimes we need to understand why is it that he or she thinks so. There should be some underlying principle that he or she cannot uh, cannot work around, and is I will use the term responsibility, but it's more towards that if the other party is not willing to do it, and if you want to make it better for both of us, it's our duty to try to find it out and then try to understand how we can work around it so that we are still able to make the other party OKR and also still meet our own OKR. Yeah. Does that help to answer the question?
Yeah.
Simi?
Not really though, because sometimes
Sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes
sometimes.
the other person is having the limitation or constraint, or maybe um the viewing point could be totally different, right? The viewing point, one person is very realistic and logistic, right? And the other person very what should I say? Can you say more people orientated, or maybe something like more emotional kind of uh, a person, right? And the closing point is not there, right? So one person, they think they're very good. There's fair no logic one, right? So they don't have no, this is poor, this is gone, and then the other person has no, have all this kind of thing listed out, and then if the other person just don't care whether you have a, a pro and con or not, right? And then the other person is no, I know that you like it, right? But we need to kind of understand the pro and con, and kind of consider for more choices to make the decision, right? So we deal with it kind of two different consideration method, or maybe thinking process, right? It's really tough to get a synergy, or collaboration. I'm not sure you
Mm.
get what I mean, right? So
I get what you mean. Maybe that's what I like about Stephen Covey. If we look at the whole book, right, or even if you look at the point, they split it out into very exact steps, which means step 1, 2, 3, 4, and we try to follow it. So the way that the whole book is thinking about, yes, different people have different characters, and we are not trying to so-called manipulate it. What we are trying to do is both sides come together and list down in a very rational manner. Let's say for your example, right? Actually, one main maybe one point that you can emphasize to do is actually define success criteria, and then just list down the success criteria that you have and the other party have in a very logical and rational manner. And after that, right, looking back at the success criteria, let's not argue about whether it's realistic or not, but we just look at what does success mean to the other party and what does success mean to us. Then only we can continue the discussion of trying to get the third alternative or trying to get the synergy out of it. And is I understand that characteristics difference may give different frictions in our whole engagement. But at least I would strongly encourage that you do the step of the define success criteria together with the other party, and then see whether there is any common points, or even if there is no common points, it's totally distinct, right? That does not close the door for creating the third alternative. There might be a way. We need to be open towards it. And of course, you by the way, I know Chini for many years. Actually, he's my mentor last time when I first joined Intel. So he taught me a lot of things. So with his professionalism, I believe that he sure will have a better wisdom than me in handling this. So this is more towards trying to have some information exchange so that you might take note of this. Yeah. Hopefully that helps, Chini.
yeah, thanks. I think
So there's
we
a
along the
question
way
from
we
Lying.
Yes.
So she asked that what can be done to have abundance mindset.
Okay. You can press one, two, three. Okay. Yeah. Actually, abundance mindset is a choice. It's not what can be done, but it's more of a choice in our everyday life. Meaning that we choose to believe that there is something more out there and we do not need to fight for it. Because after one opportunity has left, there is always another opportunity. Where in my abundance mindset does not mean that we do not grab opportunity. Abundance mindset means that we will always sharpen our saw, getting ourselves prepared. Whenever the opportunity comes, we are able to grab it. And we believe that there will always be opportunity coming. Maybe let me take Intel as an example, right? During this time of emotional instability, where we are seeing so many friends sending out goodbye notes in LinkedIn, people will think that Intel is not doing good and we may feel depressed. But if you look it from the other way, a lot of people that are leaving Intel actually are quite senior people. And when they leave, right, they actually created a lot of opportunities for the people that are staying within Intel to move to the next level. So if you have abundance mindset, you will think about, oh, that means that now I have greater opportunity. I can take over the work of this one and I don't even need to fight for it already. Last time, maybe I need to fight with the other guy, then only I can get that job. But now it's like the job is there, it's just up for grab. So these are typical abundance mindset that we can choose to believe, and it actually helps us to think more positively, where especially when the environment is not so encouraging.
Okay. I just read a question for you from Annie. Do you do you can you share your life example of how you apply the third alternative?
Okay. 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 Again, I will use my kid as an example. So my kid is actually not that good in his study. And then there is one case there when I went into the study room, I found that he's actually looking at the handphone. So the first thing, my first initial reaction is that, oh, you must be playing with handphone games already. And then that part is I see myself. But then I the next step that I'm doing is that, okay, if let's say I see you are playing handphone game, I get angry. Is it because of uh I'm angry because you are not doing your homework? Or is it because that I'm angry because you are not following what I say? I told you to do homework, but then you play handphone game. So during that time, I calm down myself and I ask the kids, what are you doing? Basically, is I see you. I try to understand. I try to see my kid not as he's a kid that is trying to play handphone game, but it's more towards I try to see you as an individual. What are you trying to do now? And my kids tell me that, oh, actually he's using handphone to scan QR code of his exercise because now their school books are so advanced already. Last time when we do exercise, we refer to a dashboard. Now you can scan QR code and there is an audio file or the textbooks coming out and you read it out from your handphone. And then the third thing that I do is I seek out. Basically, is I understand from him that okay, now you are doing this is because you need to do your homework. And then the next step comes to the create synergy. In the future, how can we make this in a better manner so that I won't fall into the trap that I think you are playing handphone versus I think you are really doing your homework. And then basically what my kid told me is that, oh, then eventually he will limit his time to only use my handphone at certain time so that we have that agreement that he will use the handphone in a more disciplined manner. So this is a small case which I believe a lot of us encounter in our day-to-day life. I won't say this is the best parents versus child engagement model, but this is a model that you can think about.
Alright, this is all the time that we have for today. If you like topic like this, do remember to subscribe to us, as we are going to post up a monthly book club sharing video just like this. And if you like this video, I believe that you can check out the video of goal setting from Shang that we are going to post it right here. Again, see you all in the next episode and happy learning. Bye bye.